Browns quarterback Shedeur Sanders returns to high school football sidelines for Avon versus Glenville. Avon, Ohio. For the second time in 3 weeks, Browns rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders made an appearance at Avon for one of Northeast Ohio's premier high school football matchups. Sanders stopped by in Week 1 for Avon's opener against St. Ignatius with Browns cornerback Greg Newsome II, a regular at the Eagles' home games, and an entourage. Sanders has taken an interest in high school athletes around Cleveland, introducing himself to a few standout receivers this spring for a throwing session. He is now taking part as a spectator for their games. Glenville's Paulie Sadler was among those receivers who caught passes from Sanders in May. He walked the Glenville sideline Friday night to watch Avon play Glenville. The host Eagles, who are the defending OHSAA Division II state champions, held off the Tarblooders for a 28-16 victory. Watch highlights of the game below. Sanders and the Browns open their season Sunday versus the Cincinnati Bengals at Huntington Bank Field. The Friday night lights burned brighter than usual in Northeast Ohio. It wasn't just Avon and Glenville preparing to clash in one of the state's most anticipated high school football matchups. It was the sight of Cleveland Browns quarterback Shedeur Sanders standing on the sidelines, hoodie pulled over his head, eyes fixed on the field where teenage dreams collided under the glow of stadium lights. To some, it was a surprise to see an NFL quarterback spending his rare free evening at a high school game. But for Shedeur, it made perfect sense. This wasn't just football, it was a reminder of where it all began. A star among the crowd. The moment word spread that Sanders had arrived, the buzz around the Avon Stadium shifted. Fans who had come to watch a classic battle between two Ohio powers found themselves sneaking glances at the Browns' rising star. Parents whispered. Kids ran up for selfies. Reporters jotted notes about the quarterback who could have been anywhere, yet chose to be here. Shedeur being here, one Glenville assistant coach said, shaking his head in disbelief. It tells these kids something, that no matter how far you go, you never forget the roots. Sanders wasn't there to be the center of attention, though. He waved politely, signed a few autographs, then tucked himself along the sideline like any other alum or proud supporter. But even when he tried to blend in, his presence felt magnetic. Why Avon versus Glenville? To outsiders, it may have seemed random. But locals knew Avon versus Glenville wasn't just a game. It was a showcase of two of Ohio's best programs, a stage where future Division I and even NFL talent often emerged. Glenville, in particular, carried weight in Sanders' heart. Coached by the legendary Ted Ginn Sr., the program had long been a pipeline of greatness, producing names like Marshawn Lattimore, Dante Whitner, and Troy Smith. It wasn't Sanders' alma mater, but it was a place that shared his language. Grit, swagger, and a belief that football was more than sport, it was culture. Avon, on the other side, was the perfect foil, disciplined, polished, a suburban powerhouse that defined consistency. Together, the matchup wasn't just a football game, it was Ohio's football heartbeat. For Sanders, being there wasn't just about watching football. It was about respect for the game at its purest level. A walk down memory lane. As Sanders stood on the sideline, the echoes of his own high school days followed him. In Texas, under the eye of his father, Deion Prime Sanders, Shedeur had once been that kid, the young quarterback with the weight of expectations on his shoulders, the bright lights of Friday night games feeling almost as heavy as NFL Sundays. Now, seeing these Ohio kids lay it all on the line, he couldn't help but smile. The way the quarterbacks barked at their linemen, the wide receivers waved their arms demanding the ball, the coaches shouted themselves hoarse, it all felt like home. At one point, Sanders leaned down to talk to Avon's young quarterback after a timeout. Nobody could hear the exact words, but the moment was powerful. A Browns quarterback giving advice on a high school sideline? That was more valuable than any pep talk in a locker room. The crowd reaction. By halftime, Sanders had become almost part of the game itself. The student section chanted his name between plays, and parents proudly snapped photos as if to prove to relatives, yes, Shedeur Sanders really came to the Avon versus Glenville game. But Shedeur didn't soak it in as a celebrity might. Instead, he clapped after big plays on both sides, offered high fives to players hustling off the field, and even helped an equipment manager pick up stray helmets near the bench. It was the humility that struck fans most. This wasn't an NFL star trying to show off, it was a young man reconnecting with the roots of the sport. Lessons in real time. During the third quarter, Glenville's running back broke loose on a 60-yard touchdown run. Sanders leapt with excitement like any other fan, pumping his fist in the air. Moments later, Avon's defense answered with a sack that brought the stadium to life again. A local broadcaster summed it up perfectly. Shedeur could be watching film right now, preparing for his next NFL opponent. Instead, he's here learning from kids who still play the game with pure joy. That says everything about who he is. Indeed, Sanders himself admitted to those close by that watching high school football kept him grounded. "These kids don't care about contracts or critics," he said with a smile. "They just want to win for their school. That's the heart of football. A symbol for the city." For Cleveland fans, Sanders' appearance wasn't just a random cameo. It was symbolic. The Browns hadn't always been known for quarterbacks who connected with the community. Now, here was Shedeur, not only playing at a high level on Sundays but showing up on Fridays, proving that he was invested in the culture of Cleveland football. "Cleveland is blue-collar. We work, we grind, we show up for each other," one father in the stands said. "Shedeur being here, it's like he's saying, 'I'm one of you.'" The final whistle. As the game wound down, Glenville pulling away in the fourth quarter, the attention slowly shifted back to the kids on the field. Sanders made sure of that. He clapped hard for the winners, then walked over to the Avon sideline, shaking hands with players who had left everything on the field. No cameras, no spotlight, just a quarterback reminding high school athletes that the grind never stops. When he finally slipped out of the stadium, the crowd erupted one last time, but Sanders didn't linger. He didn't need to. His presence had already left a mark. Beyond football, the story of Shedeur Sanders showing up to Avon versus Glenville wasn't about X's and O's. It wasn't about NFL storylines or trade rumors. It was about humanity, humility, and a reminder that even stars remember their roots. For the kids who played that night, they'll remember the touchdowns, the tackles, the atmosphere. But they'll also remember that the quarterback of their city's NFL team cared enough to stand on their sideline. For Sanders, it wasn't about being seen, it was about seeing. Seeing the next generation. Seeing the purity of the sport. Seeing himself, years ago, chasing dreams under the same Friday night lights.